Wild Party. I do Finding Nemo. I do Jedi. I do Hoop-de-Doo Review. Some other places I worked. Tuacahn, Stages St. Louis, Ogunquit. The Lincoln Center was a big one where I got to sing with Kristen Chenoweth and, oh my gosh, what was the composer's name of Wild Party? Andrew Lippa. I sang with Kristen Chenoweth and what was the guy? Cheyenne Jackson at Dr. Phillips at this Christmas thing. But anyway, if you work in this industry long enough, you accidentally stumble into really, really cool gigs, and I've had my fair share of them. And it's been super rewarding. And like I said, there's been really down years. There's been really tough times where I wonder, like, what the hell am I doing?
Yes.
And there's been other years where I feel like a superstar. Like I remember 2014 for me specifically was a year that I could not stop working and landing high profile gigs. And for every year like 2014, you have a 2013 when you don't necessarily do as well. So I definitely feel like really proud of my career, and I feel like it's going in a really good direction right now. I'm having a really good season right now. It's just been a lot of fun, and I know that a lot of people listening might be like really eager to enter this career and to do some of these things and experience some of these things. And I know a lot of people will tell you, if you can love anything else, do it, because this one is not going to be fulfilling long term for you. And I totally wholeheartedly agree with that. If you want like lasting success and stability, this is not the profession for you. But I will say there is no other profession out there that is as exciting as this one, for good and for bad. So if that's the kind of life that you're looking for, then this is a life of like passion and just leaving it out all out on the stage. Then this is certainly that career for you, but just understand that it's going to come with its share of difficulties.
So talking about those shares of difficulties, what has been your biggest challenge?
Money. Always money. In New York City, there were years where I think I probably cleared somewhere between like $15,000 and $25,000, because you'll get this big show at Gateway Playhouse where they do a lot of pre-Broadway runs. It's kind of like a sister to Paper Mill, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in Little Mermaid at Gateway Playhouse, and my agent's gonna come, and all these casting directors are gonna come. Meanwhile, you're making like between $375 and $450 a week.
Wow.
If you can sublet your apartment. If you can't sublet your apartment, you're probably paying like, I don't know, $900 to $1,200 just for your room. So you're not even making any money if you're on the road. So it's just difficult. And then when you're not doing that, you're catering, making anywhere from like $18 to $25 an hour for probably a 5-hour gig. So that's probably around $100 day. And if you get like 5 of those in a week, that's still only $500 when you're living in New York City, the most expensive place in America. So it's just very difficult to get by, and you just have to manage your expectations in terms of quality of life, where you can eat out. I think I went my first 9 months in New York living on an air mattress in my ex-girlfriend's apartment, who was living with her boyfriend that she had cheated on me with, but I didn't have enough money to move out. I was on an air mattress. Before bed, I would wake up at 4:45 every morning to go to personal training at Equinox. Then I would audition. Then I would train from 4 to 8 p.m. I'd be home by 8:45. I'd be in bed by 9:45. I would just watch on my computer like 2 episodes of Arrested Development. And then I would get like 6.5, 7 hours of sleep, and I would go back at it. Never went out to eat, never went to see any theater, never did anything fun for myself. That was my life every single day for, I want to say, like, I don't know, 7 to 9 months in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which, if you know Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, is probably about an hour 15 commute just by train to 42nd Street and where all the auditions are held. So that was probably the hardest time in my life, for obvious reasons, not just the money, but also for the circumstance. It feels like you're trapped. It feels like you're stuck. It feels like you can't escape. It feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And you just like are questioning every decision you've ever made. But if you stick to it and you manage to come out of it and rise out of it, the next year was very, very good to me. So it's just those series of ebbs and flows that make this profession the most difficult one, but also in many ways the most rewarding.
What has been the project you have felt most proud of?
Oh, God. I mean, obviously there's ones that carry more clout. Those are probably the ones on television. But personally, the one that I feel the most proud of might have very well been Bonnie and Clyde here at the Winter Garden Theater in Orlando. I've had an opportunity to play many leading characters, but Bonnie and Clyde is a show that's not done very often, that not many people have seen, and not many people were expecting very much from me or the show. Not many people knew who I was. I was relatively new to the area. Not many people knew who the cast was who was performing with me, but we knew what we had. We knew that it was special. And we just carried this like quiet confidence about us. Our artistic director was very new to the area. Not a lot of people knew who he was. So nobody really knew what they were going to see. And when people showed up, they were blown away. We sold out the entire run. And it was just different from all my other jobs because it meant a bit more, because my friends and my family all live within Orlando. So everyone who's coming to support you, they're not strangers. They're not the blue hairs, in St. Louis who come out to see the local production because they're, ticket subscription holders. These are your friends. These are your family. These are people that you really want to impress. And when like you step on that stage and you're like, I know that this is a great product. I know that you're going to be proud of me. I know that this is really going to surprise people and really blow them away. That's the product that we had with that show. And it was also just a great group of people. Like, we surrounded each other with love. Everybody was supportive. There was never any situations or circumstances that were uncomfortable. There was no unnecessary drama backstage. It was really just a perfect storm of everything just working in fruition to make a really fantastic show. And people still talk about that show. I've pretty much booked all my shows at Walt Disney Company and some outside of Disney Company. Wild Party, which I just did at Theater West End, which I'm very, very proud of. I got that job just because the director had seen Bonnie and Clyde. I got my Christmas job at Disney just because the director had seen Bonnie and Clyde. I got Finding Nemo just because the director had seen Bonnie and Clyde. Like, all these opportunities that just kept coming to me was because of this one perfect storm of a production that I just luckily fell into. I remember at the callback, I was with my friend David Coterie, who also works at Finding Nemo and was also at Wild Party. And that callback took 5.5 hours. I think it took 4 hours before I even read or sang. And at that point, when you're tired, you're working a full-time job, you're just trying to make ends meet, and you're thinking, why am I here? What am I doing here? This is my entire night. I'm so tired. Like, I'm probably not even going to book this, and I'm investing so much in it, and I'm just spending my entire time just waiting. And that kind of frustration can boil over, and it can lead into your callback. It can lead into your product, but it didn't, and everything worked out. And so that's a moment in my life, even though it's not like the most, like, you're not going to look at that on my resume and go, wow, he did that. But it is the one that was really special to me because it was the most unexpected. That when I did it, I didn't know what it was going to initially lead to. And now, 2-3 years later, opportunities are still coming to me because of that one perfect storm.
That's pretty amazing. It's a very interesting story because you said before, working with passion, and at the end everything is related to that because you're doing something that you feel most passionate about, which is getting on a stage and in a certain way telling stories. So how easy or how hard it is for an actor standing on a stage to tell stories for that audience that paid a ticket, and maybe they don't know that you had a difficult day before getting on the stage, and how important it is for you to be able to put in a suitcase all your troubles, all your problems, and just say, okay, I'm going to take care of them when I get home, and then stand on the stage and be able to tell a story and connect with people that maybe that director or that someone is sitting right there listening to you, looking at you, and as you said, okay, I got this job at Disney thanks to the director that was sitting watching me. So how do you handle that whenever you're standing there connecting and telling stories, but you have your own personal life going on the side?
And that is 100% tied to preparation. Once you're at that moment, that Saturday night, when let's say you've gotten into a car accident, you've lost your job, you weren't renewed at Disney, maybe you got into a fight with your wife, this perfect storm of tragedy that's accompanying you to the theater. That's where all the preparation you did leading up to this moment takes over. And it allows you have the confidence that your body is going to do what it's supposed to do. And your mind emotionally is going to translate everything you're feeling, and it's just going to emit it onto the stage for you. But if you're not prepared, if you're not confident in the work you've already done leading up to that point, that's where you can steer off course. So that's why it's important, everybody, when I try to set a tone, when I get to a rehearsal, I am ready. I might not necessarily be off book, but I am very, very familiar. I'm close within a couple of rehearsals. usually if you block a scene, the next time I get to that scene, I am off book for that scene. The same goes for music. If somebody teaches me the music, the next time we come across that specific song, that specific 16 bars, whatever it is, I am off book, because the sooner that you can get off book, the sooner you can become comfortable, the sooner you can begin experimenting. And once you've gotten to the phase where you are experimenting, where you are making different choices, where you feel confident enough that you are present, that you're not thinking outside of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, that's when Jesus just takes the wheel. That's when you step out on stage, and regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of your nerves, your excitement levels, or your fears, your anxiety, your body has trained itself. You have the muscle memory within you to just let you take over. And your mind is so absent from what's happening, because once you start singing, once you start talking, the only thing that you can possibly channel is your character, is who you are. And will that performance change? Absolutely. But as long as you are confident in your product and properly prepared, then your body is just going to tell that version of that story as it relates to you that day. And you don't have to worry like, I'm going to forget my words because my wife yelled at me, or I'm going to crack on this note because, I got into a car accident. Obviously, sleep preparation is very important. Taking care of yourself. A lot of young kids, you'll see like going out and partying. Obviously, you're very excited on opening night. So, maybe you have a couple of drinks and stuff, and you have permission to do whatever you want. But you also have to take accountability. You have to prepare yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And if you have done those things, if you have taken care of your body and prepared your mind for that performance over the course of rehearsal process, you have nothing to worry about. You'll have some nerves. That's inevitable. We all will. Leading up into that scene, you might focus your thought on whatever has been bothering you that day. But once you step out onto that stage and you start saying those words, your passion is just going to take over.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Now, Preston, we already spoke about your musical career in theater. Now, you also have a podcast, which is available on iTunes or whatever podcasts are available, correct? So talk to us a little bit about the NBA podcast, because it sounds it's not funny because actually it's entertainment, right? But it's like two different sides of the entertainment business, because you are on musical theater, you have been on TV, you do voiceovers, but now you speak and you write for the Orlando Magic. You have a podcast about the NBA. So talk to us a little bit about that project. And if it was your idea, how did it come to you, and what is that you're wanting to pursue? You mentioned at the beginning, it's all about maybe making connections and everything, but what's the goal of the NBA podcast? And what do you write about the Orlando Magic and the New Orleans team as well?
Yeah, I'll be super candid about this. I guess it was probably 3 years ago. I started working for free, writing for the Pelican Debrief. I wasn't working very much. I had a lot of downtime. I'm very passionate about basketball. So I thought I can talk about my favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans. And I opened my own podcast, and I started interviewing some pretty notable people. And so the team at the Bird Rights, which is a subsidiary of SB Nation, they reached out to me, and they started paying me a little, and I created a podcast for them. This is covering the New Orleans Pelicans, where I was born and raised. That's the shared connection. And then since I was living in Orlando, there's a site here called Orlando Pinstripe Post, and I was eyeballing all of these different Magic blogs, trying to find one that didn't have a podcast. And this is one that I earmarked because they didn't have a podcast, and they were also under the SB Nation umbrella network. So I started writing for them. And then after I started writing for both of them, they started paying me. I continued doing the podcast. I continued talking to influential people through the podcast. The writing is great because it makes you a little bit of money, and a lot of people like it. A lot of people comment. But podcasting is really where you get to meet people. You get to talk to people. You get to create relationships. Even though it doesn't pay me anything, it's led me to more relationships than writing ever could. So now I have podcasts for the Pelicans and the Magic, as well as writing for both of them. Fast forward to, or I guess go back in time to August of just last year, 2018, I lost my job at Disney. No explanation as to why, and that's the nature of the business. They don't have to give you a reason. I went around to all the people around my stage. I said, hey, is there anything I'm doing wrong? And they said, no, we loved you. Obviously, it's a creative decision. And that sort of stuff happens. So I reached out. There was a job application for Bleacher Report for an editor. I had never edited. I had barely written anything in my life. But I BS'd my way through the interviews. I think there were 5 interviews. There were essays that I had to write, stories I had to write. It was a really involved process. And I was like, man, is this even worth it? But I got it. And I got 4 months worth of full-time work, paying me better than Disney even did. It came with benefits. It was a great job. It was while a guy was on paternity leave. So as soon as he came back, I was like, damn it, man, I really enjoyed that job, and I really want to keep that job. And they were so good to me. They really liked me that they kept me on as a writer. And so now I'm making really great money for them. And I'll be super candid. I think I made $25,000 last year just writing part-time for Bleacher Report and SBNation.com. And I say part-time because that's what they pay you for, but I really was working full-time for them. But I